Hello. Hello, friends. It's Zaf. It's Monday. 7 o'clock. 7:08. Same shit. Welcome to Mastery Mondays. So today we're going to be talking about drizzle damage. What is drizzle damage? Well, you know how I roll. Handy dandy notebook. It's the use of light attacks to inflict smaller damage for a specific means, okay? A specific means. So what are these specific means? Well, I'm going to demonstrate all 5 of them. With drizzle damage, there are very specific means that you're giving up damage for to accomplish something else, okay? So this is why it's very important. You got to be very attentive with the meter, and based off of what you see, you'll determine whether or not you'd want to incorporate this into your decision making, into your offense, into your neutral, okay? So let's start with number 1. So drizzle damage is the incorporation of light attacks, right? Primarily, you don't care about damage at that moment because you're trying to accomplish some sort of specific means. So, a lot of people, when they learn the game, what do? They go to YouTube or they go to the internet. And the first thing they see are what? Combo videos, right? Which is why a lot of people appreciate this channel, because I don't give a fuck about that. That you can find combo videos anywhere, okay? The point of the channel, the point of my stream and this platform is to help you guys understand Street Fighter at the deepest level, okay? So now, when people are playing Street Fighter, what they do is that they will look at these combo videos, and then that's how they view the game. They're like, oh, okay, so I should learn combos. So a lot of what they do is with the intention of hitting their opponent to start combos, right? As opposed to opening them up or getting them to unblock, which are completely different types of focuses. So, let's say if Cammy, for example, a lot of Cammys, I can tell if they're not expertise with the character if they do this. Because this doesn't make Cammy scary. And the reason why is because of this. She's not in throw range. Granted, she has the walk speed to walk up and throw you again, right? But it's not as scary as her being here and she's still in throw range. Okay? So now, example number 1 for drizzle damage for using light attacks over medium pokes is that it keeps you in close proximity, okay? It keeps you very close to your opponent. This is very important, so that way you can increase your pressure, because pressure increases over time the longer you sustain it, okay? That type of consistency breeds intensity in the opponent. So now there's like a mental meter that's starting to get drained, okay? So the longer somebody stays in on you, like a mosquito, the more likely you are to make a mistake, okay? But when you're doing medium attacks, there are now gaps, okay? And the gaps, I would say your offense is not real once you're outside of throw range, okay? Not to say you can't obviously walk up and throw somebody, but just think of it like that. Whenever somebody puts themselves out of throw range, in order for them to throw you again, what do they have to do? They have to walk up, right? So if they walk up, though, they're not blocking and they're not committing an action. So by them doing this, you have no real reason to tech, right? So you can just block and watch their offense. And then you can dictate how do they try to close the gap again. And then you can punish them and intervene in between that moment. So if you see this, walk up, you know, oh, this isn't real. All right. So then maybe, right? Uh-oh. I'm getting hit. And that can potentially convert into something if you're playing the right character. Okay? With characters that can jab into V-trigger and then get fierces and stuff like that. All right? So you want to maintain this intensity. Because you got to think of it like this. When you get in on your opponent, right? You earned it. Right? So, like, why waste the opportunity? You know? Why not stay in there and then use that situation to gain all the possible information about your opponent's tendencies, their preferences, their temperament. Like, what can you get out of this situation? You can get a lot more out of this situation than you can out of this. I'm not saying you can't get information out of this. Of course you can, right? Because if I do this and I walk up and I see you poke me, then I'm like, all right, I saw you're doing jab. Use that against them. But you don't get as much information as if you were here, because things will open up more for you in terms of like your offense. You'll get your throw, right? You'll be able to just figure out your opponent faster, because you'll be able to force them into making decisions. Okay, because if I push myself over here, you don't have to really do anything until I start to walk back in and try to throw you. That makes sense so far? So that's number one. So you want to stay close to the opponent. Okay, this drizzle damage. You're sacrificing the damage of a medium, right, just for the intensity. So this specific means would help you figure out your opponent. You know, you get more information out of being close than if you were over here, pushing yourself away with medium pokes, right? Because now look, now I have to go and regain all of this. I have to go and outfoot you all over again to get here. So what if you were dominating me in neutral and I finally got in a certain matchup? Like let's say against Dalsum, I pushed myself away from Dalsum. Now I have to get back in. As opposed to if I were to stay with light attacks. Okay. It's just a lot harder for your opponent to feel comfortable. The discomfort, it's just gonna increase the longer you stay on somebody. So number two, these drizzle attacks set up big moves, okay? And the reason why is that the block stun, the hit stop, right, and the block stun, the hit stop, whatever, that you know, the blue flash that you see when you block, right? You see how fast it is as opposed to this? This is a lot more significant. It's a lot more obvious. So light attacks make you actually appear faster because there's not a lot of block stun involved. So usually when somebody's blocking, they block, right? And let's say if I'm pressuring with mediums, they see what I'm doing with the mediums, right? Because the medium, when it lands, it stops the screen for a second and they can kind of see like, oh, he just did medium. Okay, and maybe they can tell that I'm walking up because of the hit stop, all right? But if I'm playing like this, it's so much harder to see the walk forward. See? Like, if I go up and I do that, right? Okay, cool. But look at this. This doesn't work, right? But look. You couldn't see the walk up, right? So that block stun, the fact that it's so little on the light attacks, makes it a lot harder for your opponent to confirm what's going on at the moment. Okay? So now, when it's harder for them to recognize what's going on, it lets you do bigger moves. So you can start doing these type of things. Like dashes, you know what I'm saying? You can start doing jump-ins because the block stun is so little. By the time they recognize you're jumping, they're like, oh wait, what? I'm so used to mediums. I'm so used to having that extra, you know, oomph behind the hit. The oomph, right? Oomph. So that way they can take those mental pictures of the match as it's happening. And then they recognize the situation. But it's a lot harder when there's not a lot of block stun or hit stop. Because it dissipates so quickly. So it's harder to tell, okay? So you don't even really see the walk up. But if you did this, it's a lot more obvious. Okay. So these can set up bigger moves. So you have your jumps, you know, like stuff like that, right? Because it makes it seem like you're playing so much faster, and the faster you play, the harder it is for analytical players to keep up, because they're going about a process in their mind. So they're like, all right, well, this is what's happening. Let me think of the solutions, right? But in a game like this that is so fast and it's very sluggish, you know, like in terms of like we're brawling up close. The closer you are to somebody, the harder it is for you to react to them, right? Because the distance, time travel, right? So if I'm further away, then it's going to be easier for you to recognize what's going on in real time. All right, so number 3. All right, so you want to create specific ranges with a certain type of advantage. So generally, when somebody pushes themselves far away, right, their longest poke will be a medium or a fierce. But those attacks usually will be negative. So let's see, crouching medium kick, -3. Stand fierce, -3, okay? So I want to push you away to a specific range. Let's say I want to push you over here, but I want to do it with some advantage. So not every character is going to have access to a standing +3 medium like Cammy, right? So she's the exception. But other characters might have the light attacks that will give them that. So let's say if I'm playing against like somebody like a Balrog, right? And the Balrog player likes to do reversal timed EX dashes when he gets pushed to sweep range. So if I do a block string like this, right? And it puts him at this range, he likes to just let EX dash punch rip when he has V-trigger. So what I could do is I could just block string myself with light attacks, so that way I would have advantage, and that way the startup of my next move is faster, right? Because if I have advantage, I'm +1, so now my stand fierce ends up being a 5-frame move. So it would be more likely to beat the EX dash, okay? So you can purposely put your opponents at this sweep range with light attacks, with drizzle attacks, okay? And you'll have the advantage to counter any sort of retaliation lashing move. So what are the retaliation lashing moves? Horizontal attacks like EX dash punch, Urian's EX tackle. What's another one that's common? I mean, sometimes Laura's do light punch shoulder, elbow, or whatever. If it hits, they're in your face +2, right? But that's very rare. But sometimes they do it. Another character I could think of would be maybe Sagat. Like if he gets pushed back and he tries to do like a reversal EX knee to try to get in or whatever. I don't know. Although his isn't that as common, but the point is to just illustrate the imagery of a horizontal lunging attack. Okay, so you can bait people by pushing them to these ranges, but doing it with light attacks, and they'll just commit. And they don't confirm the situation because, again, we talked about the lights, right? How it has little hit stop and block stun. So they just kind of block a move and they just lash out. So they don't even realize that you're at advantage here. And you can also do this tactic against characters with really strong medium pokes that like to reversal poke you. So let's say like Bison. Bison has stand medium kick, right? So if I do this, I'm +1, but then maybe I do a roundhouse, right? So my roundhouse ends up being 8 frames, which I believe is the same startup as his stand medium kick. So I can end my string with this, and then I just do roundhouse and I crush counter his stand medium kick, okay? As opposed to if I did like a low forward, now I'm -3, so my roundhouse goes from 9 to 12 frames, and I'm gonna get counter hit, all right? So you can be mindful of that. So you're sacrificing damage because the damage isn't important in these situations, because you're trying to get damage after the situation is created. That's where the real damage will come from, okay? The psychological damage and the damage that's demonstrated by the health bars, all right? Okay, so now we have 2 left. So we said staying close to the opponent. It sets up your big moves like dashes and jumps, right? So if you have like a dive kick character, it's harder for your opponent to recognize what you're doing with your movement, okay? We just said that it helps you create specific ranges with advantage, so you can use that to lock people in, to give them the idea that it's okay for them to lash out, but it's not. And let's see, so we have 2 more left. Okay, so this one is something I think a lot of people kind of ignore. So this is one of the main reasons why I made this specific topic today. It's about gray damage. So people, when you pressure with medium attacks, right? Look at Armika's bar, okay? All right. So if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Zaf powers levitate. Okay, cool, guys, ready? So look at this. So over here, pay attention to the V meter. You see how it's building up, right? If I do light attacks, you don't gain V meter. Okay? So why is this important? Because sometimes you'll be a hit confirm away from KOing your opponent, but they're also 1 blocked medium attack.
Smart.
Ultra.
You're loyal. You're grateful.
I just gotta interrupt the lesson real quick. Thank you so much. 3 months of being loyal to the soil. Much love to you. I appreciate it. My peoples. So, sometimes your opponent will be 1 hit away, a hit confirm away from, DP into super to dying, right? But they're also 1 gray health chip away from getting V-trigger. You see what I'm saying? So if you can just use your light attacks to just go for the confirm, and then you get the counter hit, and then you kill them, as opposed to you doing this and hoping, you know, but then look what's happening. She's getting V meter. And imagine too, you're doing this early in the set, right? So what if Mika all of a sudden gets in on me? Now she's in on me, right? And her gray health is dissipating, but look at this. Her V bar doesn't go away. It's still there. So she's getting her health back. Granted, it's really slow, but if she has the offense, then she can just kind of keep you there, right? In the corner or something. So let's say if I'm in the corner, and then now she's gaining all of that gray health back, but then now she also is much closer to V trigger. You see? So that's very dangerous. We talked about strategy on Mastery Monday last week, right? We talked about the end game and how important it is to be mindful of your opponent's end game tendencies, how desperate they are. Okay, so when you're approaching the end game with in Street Fighter V, if you have the opportunity to neutralize and KO your opponent, do it right as they're gaining V trigger. Okay, and the light attacks will help you with that because they will make sure your opponent is not getting any gray damage and therefore no V meter. Okay, that's very important. But of course, she's gaining bar. She's gaining super bar. Okay, but super bar isn't as important as V trigger in the end game, in my opinion. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the situation, but okay. So this will help you set up your KO scenarios. And you combine this with all the things we talked about how it forces you as the person on defense to make decisions. You have to commit a lot because of the fact that there's not a lot of block stun on these attacks, so it's hard to dictate where the spacing is of her attacks. Because by the time you see that she does light kick, she can do this. And you're like, oh wait, I was prepared for the stand light kick spacing, not for the crouching jazz space, like, you know, and then all of a sudden she just walks up. Or maybe she walks up in between it. And you didn't notice. Okay? So you avoid the gray life build up in your opponent's health bar. Very, very important. Okay? So if you are mindful of meter, you can avoid bad situations because you know to not do this. Because you see this, what's happening, right? With the gray health. And you're not giving them V-trigger earlier in the set because of it. So if you're actually pressuring, you're figuring out information at a rapid pace. You're getting abundance of knowledge in terms of your opponent's mindset and what they like to do because you're staying close to them. You're figuring out their defense and stuff. But then you're not giving them gray damage either. You know what I'm saying? So even if you're not doing anything, you're building bar at least, and you're pushing them to the corner. But you're also getting information without increasing the chances of a comeback because you're not giving them V meter. So you don't have to worry about the V trigger. Follow me? Does that make sense? Please let me know. And lastly, the fifth element of this is to force trades in the end game, okay? So when you have access to life lead especially. So like if we are in like a trade scenario, let's say Mika has, let me just turn this all off. Let's say Mika has this much health, okay? I have all of this health that I have, right? Ultra, peace out, by the way, brother. Thank you for coming through. Let's say I have all of this health. A tendency a lot of people have in the end game is that they forget it's the end game. They don't know it's an end game because they've never recognized it as such. So they don't really forget. They just don't know. And now they're still playing the end game as if they were in the opening game or the mid game, which is very dangerous when your opponent gets access to V-trigger. So you're not taking advantage of the advantages. Remember that. Okay, make that a quote. Take advantage of the advantages. So one of the advantages we have right now, look at the health. I have full health. Mika has literally a light attack away. She's a light attack away from dying. Okay? If I hit her, she's done. Okay? So now, in the end game, this is a very strong tactic. Is to use your lights. Christitarian went over this. Okay? So I'm just basically going to refresh on what he said. So essentially, you have light attacks. And light attacks, you recover very quick. The startup is very fast. Typically, on average, light attacks are 4 frames. So, and they're as fast as 3 if you are just blessed with one of those, like Cammy. You have these really fast recovering attacks, all right? And the thing about these attacks are that because they recover so fast, you can cover multiple methods of movement or of your opponent trying to close the gap on you, okay? So let's say Mika... Okay. Let's say Mika does that. Let's say Mika does... She does that. Okay. She's dead. Okay. It recovers so fast though that you'll see. That I'll be able to still anti-air her movement. Okay. So let's put her health to auto recover. Oh. So this way I can just show you, right? Or you can even do this. Like, look how quick she recovers. Oop. And then you can confirm it. It's kind of hard to do this with gloves on. There you go. Right. So this is really important. So she'll have to actually walk and block you, right? In order to be in any sort of threatening range. But the issue is if she tries to walk and block me, she can now potentially walk into a medium poke if I just time it fast enough. Right? So this is a really strong tactic. So if she's buffering, you know, these whiffs, if you space them correctly and you understand the hitboxes of your light attacks, priority only happens when 2 attacks touch each other's hurt boxes with their hitboxes at the same exact frame. Okay? So you can actually still out-prioritize a heavy attack with a light attack if your light attack's hitbox is far enough away from its hurt box so that on the other side of the interaction, your opponent's hitbox doesn't touch your hurt box. Okay, so if you have a hitbox that's in front of your hurt box, it's like a shield. The distance between the red and the green is like an invincible area. Alright? If you can make that contact with your opponent's character without them hitting you, then priority doesn't matter. You can still beat out heavy attacks with light attacks. Case in point, if you frame trap somebody, right? There'll be a heart box extension sometimes right before they go active. So then you'll hit them with your light attack, you know, even though you're not up close or whatever. You're just like further away. So you can use this to force trades even. Like, so if somebody's trying to buffer lights against you, you know, maybe because they don't want you to dash in. Maybe they don't want to whiff a medium because they don't want to get whiff punished because they'll be KO'd like this, right? But they're like, shit, I don't want to let you dash in on me either, right? So then maybe they're doing lights. So then you could just walk up to them and use your lights, you know? And then if a trade happens, guess what? You win because you had the health lead, right? So I'll give you an example. So let's say Mika is doing that. See, boom. I would have won. See if I can do it again. I didn't mean to whiff punish, but that worked out. Alright. So Cammy stand light kick is one of the best light buttons in the game, but so it's a challenge to try to force the trade in this scenario, but you guys did see it. So imagine her health is like that and I trade with a light kick. It's pretty much curtains. Because I have the health advantage, right? So this is why you would want to use light attacks. So it just depends on the means of what you're trying to accomplish. Alright? So you know, let's say another example. Let's say you're pressuring your opponent, right? But if you hit them with a medium attack, they'd get stunned, right? But you don't want to hit them with a medium attack. Maybe you wanna tick throw them, right? But you just don't want to. You don't want to do the medium. You don't want to do a meaty medium because maybe, you know, they get hit and then now your follow up combo's gonna start off with a medium instead of a throw. You could light kick, stay close, and be in throw range. And if they got hit, maybe they still don't get stunned, but they're still a hit away from stun. Now they're they were 2 light pokes away from being stunned, but now they're 1 light poke away from being stunned. But now if you throw them, they're stunned, and you have a massive stun combo because the first hit did 130 damage or something like that, right? So, Horsebox, what's up? It's impossible to beat Rashid's crouching light kick in this instance. His crouching light kick is like Karen's crouching medium kick. Well, yeah, it depends on the hitbox. I don't remember what his hitbox is like, but I know I can whiff punish it with a jab if I buffer it at the right range. But so like a lot of these medium pokes too, like even in footsies, if you have a feeling that your opponent is using a medium poke, right? They're just buffering a medium. So let's say like Mika does this, okay? She does that. See? Look at the risk though. There's not much of a risk. Because if she jumps, I would still be able to DP. This will catch dash if I time it right enough, right? And I got the KO. Alright, so you see how I cover 3 scenarios off of that? I can cover a whiff punish opportunity, I can cover a dash, and I still have enough time to where if I buffer, right, my animation is so fast that I can just react to the DP. Boom. She jumps in on me. Okay, there's not much risk involved behind it. So if you think about Drizzle damage, you can think of it as a means of accomplishing damage with the least amount of risk possible. Okay? Because now, if they see this, they might crush counter you, but guess what? That now opens up me whiff punishing. And if I see I can whiff punish, you get KO'd in the end game. Okay? So that is that for the lesson today, guys. I hope this helped a lot. Please let me know if you have any questions. How do you feel about the lesson? Just let me know.